And to be clear, it's not your dog shirt, it's your dog on a shirt. But regardless, we're going to get this started right about. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live on a couple of places on the internet. We are live on Crowdcast, live on YouTube, or maybe you're listening later. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's all good. And we have a show for you tonight.
Let's do it again.
You know what? Sometimes I hit the wrong button. It's fine.
No,
look,
never own that. That's just boosting it up and bringing that energy.
You know what? That was our producer. Our producer fucked up again.
Yeah, I know. Don't ever no. Let's not. We've never said that we have a producer that we don't ever talk about, and always, anytime there's a mistake, it's that person's fault.
Yeah. What did King Louis say? Le producer, c'est moi.
Wow.
Something like that.
Okay. I think he said line producers suck.
I think our producer wrote that line for you, so
I'll tell you what.
Anyway.
We're getting way too into the minutia here, and we have some awesome guests, so I don't want to waste a lot of time here. If you're listening to the audio podcast version, not to cheat the live show here, but if you're listening to the audio podcast version, you're going to get a bonus interview with the Valderrama brothers, who are the creators of Giants and Giants Volume 2 Ghosts of Winter. That's going to play after these regular live interviews here. So if you're watching live, you got a special bonus if you download the audio podcast. If you're already listening to the audio podcast, get ready for something super sweet in a little while. But first, something that is equally super sweet, we're going to bring in a returning guest here. He's one of our favorite writer/artists, and we're going to bring him onto the show right now. He's got a new thing called Urban Barbarian. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Panosian. Hello.
Hey, buddy.
How are you? Good to see you. Excited to talk about all of this. So you've got a new, what do we call it? Do we call it a Zoop starter, or what? What is the thing on Zoop? What's the term?
I like saying Zoop a lot, so if we can, just keep saying that, that's kind of fun.
Get yourself a Zoop.
Baby.
Yeah. It's a Zoop starter.
Yes. Well, you've got this great project called Urban Barbarian. I'm going to bring it up here for the live audience over on Zoop. So this is a collection of a bunch of different works. Talk to us about how this project came about.
Well, I have... I did volume 1 and I did volume 2, and I haven't had a new book out in probably 3 years or more. So there's been a lot of work since the other 2 books came out. So I was like, you know what, it's time to do it. And then Jordan from Zoop pretty much demanded it. He's a little bit of it's kind of like a mobster in a way, like whereas like Kickstarter and Indiegogo are like, those are pretty friendly crowdfunding. Jordan over at Zoop is a little bit of a bully, and that's not very popular these days. So, that's what I didn't really have a choice, but I don't want to make him upset.
Well, this seems to be clearly focusing on you as an artist, and I think you've really been doubling down on. I mean, you've done the art, but like you've been doubling down on yourself as a writer lately. So, is it nice to get back to the sphere and be focusing very specifically on the art?
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. These days, I've been drawing Canary for Scott Snyder for Comixology, and what's kind of nice is all the books that I do write, I generally do design work that doesn't really get seen except by the artists working on the book. So I'm going to include it in this book, so you kind of get a behind the scenes sort of
that's cool.
peek, into the process of like putting a book together, as well as like. There's all the variant covers and some pages I'm kind of proud of, and then a ton of drink and draw artwork. And we have like a live stream YouTube show that every time we do, even if we have a guest, sometimes we'll if it's something like Bill Sienkiewicz, maybe we'll draw Moon Knight, or depending on the guest, we'll pick a subject that works with that person.
Now, let me ask you, if I'm looking at a piece drawn during a drink and draw, how do I drink along with the visual?
I know you're able to, pour whatever you want. Sometimes we, at actual drink and draws, we kind of miss those. We're going to start them up again, but there's a lot more drinking on the live stream. There's generally maybe one Bud Light consumed. That's about it.
Well, talk about the content of the book a little bit, and maybe this is getting into the minutia too much, but I'm really curious when you're doing a project like this. As we're looking through it here on the Zoop page, you've got some Marvel art. I think there's probably a little DC art in there as well as some original art. How do you handle the rights for something like that in terms of selling your own book?
Well, what happens generally is it's for what do they call it? For scholarly review is the way you put it. And you don't want to, I'm not going to have like a Marvel character or a DC character on the cover. Obviously, you saw that one cover image, but there's also as far as I guess the legality part of it, you want to keep. There's a percentage that you want to stay under. Otherwise, you're going to have to have some problems there. It can't. The basic problem when you do books like that is if what's selling the book is the Marvel characters or the DC characters or the Boom characters or you name it, if lawyers can kind of determine like, oh, people are buying this because of that, as opposed to buying it because, oh, I'm a big fan of, let's say Alex Ross came out with a book that was just work. You're buying it for Alex Ross. So that's kind of how you have to plan it out. And luckily I work for so many different publishers and there's so many different odds and ends in this book that, it's just a nice retrospective.
Now, do you go through as you're creating and are you like, I'm going to hold on to this one? Or do you sift through the records? You're like, oh, yes, I love this one. I want to show this off more. How does the selection process go?
Yeah, I get kind of, I'll do something and then 3 months later, I'll round file it. I won't like it. So everything that's gone into this book, is stuff that I'm proud of, hopefully, until after it gets
So it's just stuff you haven't thrown away. It's basically
it's all stuff that I want to show. Like when you go to a convention and you see everybody's best artwork and you think that's exactly how they draw all the time. That's this. Every time I go to a convention, I come back like inspired, but a little bit deflated, like, wow, I just saw this amazing, but you're seeing everybody's best stuff. They're putting their best foot forward. And that's basically what these books are.
You know what everybody should do is at conventions, they should, at their booth, have the garbage can where they've thrown out all of their stuff and you can go through and be like, okay, I got
a fun prank for you to show up. Who just sift through people's garbage and dump it out on the table and art is selling.
I remember whenever Bill Sienkiewicz has been to one of the actual drink and draws, sometimes he'll draw something and crumple it up. All the eyes go,
Oh man!
And people are like, I'm gonna go get a beer, and trying to grab that drawing or find it in the trash.
When you're putting together a book like this, I mean, on kind of the same note we're talking about, I know writers always look at stuff and they're like, oh, God, I got to change this word. I got to make this a little better. Yeah. Do you do the same thing with your art, or are you at a point where when you're curating stuff here, this is the stuff that you're actually proud of and actually feel good about?
Yeah, this is only stuff I really don't have to touch up. But believe me, there's plenty of it. You always see, like, for Zeta, kept going back and noodling in on paintings, and sometimes, you'd be like, oh, don't touch that one. That one's perfect. But no, there won't be any of that in this book, hopefully.
Yeah,
all bangers is what they say.
I mean, there's a lot of pages. There might be some duds in there at 116 pages. So
that's pretty awesome.
If you buy the book and don't like a page, my advice: tear it out, throw it.
Wow, I love it.
That's too painful to hear you say that.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned another book that you're working on, which is Canary over at Comixology with Scott Snyder. This is a pretty dark Western book. What has it been like working on that with Scott, and what's it been like working with Comixology?
Well, working with Scott, we started this. Originally, it wasn't necessarily going to be a Comixology book, and then the pandemic hit, and we were like, okay, is that the producer?
That's right.
Yep, that's Justin's producer right now.
Yep, in a way.
Talk about it. In a way. For anybody listening to the audio podcast, nothing just happened.
Nothing
to see here.
Of any of these screens whatsoever. But yeah, no. So we started working on it, and obviously Scott kind of, for each book that came out through Comixology, every book that he comes out with, he has more in mind, like, oh, I want to work with this artist. And I really like Westerns. I like crime noir. So we decided to kind of fashion something around that, and he obviously had some great ideas, and he ran it by me, and we picked it. And I have to say, working with him, out of all the writers I've ever worked with, it's the most back and forth you get. Sometimes you just get a script and it is what it is, and the writer doesn't necessarily want to talk to you. Not necessarily because they're horrible people. Maybe they are. But
when does that book come out?
Yeah, exactly. The tell-all.
Yeah.
But no, he's been great collaborating, and if I have an idea, he'll humor me and he'll throw it in there. So it's pretty nice.
Cool.
Now, we've talked to a bunch of people, not just over the years, but also recently as Comixology Originals has officially launched, in terms of how they hit it, meaning specifically in terms of the layout of the page. There's been some folks that have talked about, oh yeah, I'm not worrying about it. We're just laying out a page, let Comixology deal with the whole guided view thing. Other folks are very specifically writing for the guided or drawing for the guided view. What's your take on it? How are you hitting it?
Well, at first, that was a little bit of a concern of mine, but this book is also going to be published by Dark Horse. So I had to keep in mind it's going to be a regular book, a graphic novel that's going to collect all the issues together. But, there's not a lot of overlapping panels. And sometimes, artists like to get fancy and have maybe panels that overlap. At Comixology, for their particular app, that, they have to do a little bit of extra work. But you know what? For me, I think of it like give them a challenge.
Nice.
Make them earn that paycheck.
You have on your Zoop at the bottom a fun fact, and I don't know, maybe this has already been talked about, but you made all the fake comic book covers from the movie Logan.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Nice.
Can you gotcha, Pete? Can you talk about how that came together and sort of what you wanted to put out there? Yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of Logan and Wolverine, and
hell yeah.
When they came out with that movie, it's not a Marvel movie per se. So Marvel wasn't interested in giving them any comic books to use whatsoever. But comic books were a part of the plot. Like his daughter has never seen him before, and she's a mutant, obviously, also. And there's mutants in these comic books, and they're finding a utopia, like a place that they can all live happily ever after. But they needed artwork, and they needed old comics. They needed comics that looked like they were from the 80s. So I got to do all these retro covers. Nice. And I also put in like fake names that were kind of riffs on like John Byrne's name or Dave Cockrum's name or Rubenstein or Zaki and Terrio, and trying to mimic it's something that you'd never really see. You'd have to really zoom in, have a 4K Ultra TV to really maybe spot some of this stuff.
They're out there.
Yeah, I guess people could do it. Yeah, I've even seen like bootleg comics where I posted enough of the art where people have created the comic book. Because later on, Joe Quesada came in, and he ended up penciling a story sequence that they flipped through, and I got to basically turn that into like a retro comic book, ink it, color it, letter it. I may have even done the writing. I'm not sure, but I did another to fill out the comic book. I wrote an entire little X-Men story and did covers, fake ads. I put my wife in the ad, brushing her teeth for a toothbrush. I mean, it was fun. I put a wrestler, MMA friend of mine in there, like doing some kind of Snickers bar thing. We had a blast.
That's awesome. Do you remember the plot of the story that you wrote? I imagine it won't see publication.
It was basically Kitty Pryde getting nervous that her family was coming to visit her, and everyone kind of reassuring her that, we're your family now and it's okay. And
that's nice.
It's very cute.
Yeah. Nice. Adorable. Well, I was going to say on the opposite end of the spectrum, now that it's all under the same roof and even Logan is on Disney Plus, maybe there is a possibility those could come out.
Ooh, that would be cool. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It took about 6 months and a lot of freedom just to do whatever kind of homage covers I wanted to. And
right, you're not working with an editor, you're working with like a production designer probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And the art direction team who were just like, this is cool. None of that editorial.
Don't stress, send it to us.
I wanted to ask you about one of our favorite books. I think we've talked about every issue on our Stack podcast where we review stuff. Alice Ever After from Boom. So this is, well, tell me if you describe it this way. This is how we've been talking about it on the Stack, but we've been kind of talking about it as like what if Alice in Wonderland was in the real world or took place in the real world, and that's where it starts, but then it starts to riff and spin off from there? Is that how you kind of think about the book?
That's basically it. It's more centered on the real world, and she has these trips to Wonderland, and she'd prefer to be in Wonderland because her real life as a young adult is pretty horrible. So
it's pretty dark.
She's trying to find a way to maybe permanently go to Wonderland to erase her problems. But as she gets closer and closer to that, maybe actually becoming a reality, it becomes less attractive to her as it goes. And we're I think the 4th issue is out right now. Mm-hmm. The final issue is out August 31st.
Cool.
And there's talk of maybe a sequel, but it's a pretty grim tale as it goes. It gets darker and darker.
What do you think is so appealing, or at least what is appealing to you about these Lewis Carroll stories that keep drawing people back and keep having them riff on them time and time again?
I think it's just like Alice herself. Those fairy tales are escapes for us. I mean, that's why we read comic books, to escape. So this is a classic, and we kind of, even if, let's say, you never read the books and you only as a little kid saw Alice in Wonderland, that's still somewhere in your subconscious. So you have a little bit of an affinity for Alice already, or maybe for the Cheshire Cat. And what I wanted to do is kind of take some of those things and turn them upside down. I know it sounds cliche, but just change it. But there's enough familiarity there that you have some kind of sense of these characters already, and maybe some kind of emotional bond or feeling. It should kind of take you back in a way to feeling like you did when you were a kid. But they're adult topics that we're examining.
And what I like about it is it sort of flips Lewis Carroll's model of having like whimsy with a dark underbelly that you sort of like feel the entire time, but it's less overt. And you were like, no, it's sort of dark up front, and the whimsy is sort of what everyone's chasing a little bit throughout the story.
It's been a blast. I've really had fun. It's kind of sad to see it coming to an end. That's why we're talking about the possibility of another series, but even as a series, a standalone 5-issue series, it has kind of I really don't want to give much away.
Don't spoil it, man. We're gonna read it.
The podcast when you guys do examine the final issue and see what you think.
Can't wait, man.
I'm excited. Yeah. Before we let you go, that's obviously a lot of projects that you have under your belt right now, but anything else coming out that you want to plug?
There's a few other publishers. It's one of those things where you're not supposed to talk about it until the announcement's made. Yeah. But man, I'm so busy. I'm doing more writing than I am drawing. And today I'm so happy I'm drawing Canary.
Nice.
Which is a lot of fun. But I have another book. It's a Western I'm working on. But I kind of like to balance it off with a lot of different topics. That's 2 Westerns in a row, but there's I like the fantasy elements, some superhero stuff, but I'm not writing any of that currently.
Yeah. Well, we love everything that you're doing. And again, I was about to say an unkindness of raisins because that was top of my
raisins
head.
Of raisins?
Raisins?
Wow.
I don't know.
Write that down.
That's a sequel right there.
You could have a crossover with the California raisins. I don't think anybody's doing it.
More than 2 scoops and unkindness.
Anyway, Urban Barbarian is on Zoop right now for the next 23 days. It's a very cool project, Dan. Always good chatting with you, and enjoy those raisins.
All right, enjoy Matt Kindt up next, I guess.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
All right,
thanks,
cheers, you guys. Thank you so much.
Sick T-shirt.
All right, there we go. Once again, Dan Panosian from An Unkindness of Raisins, 2 Scoops of Raisins.
Come on, dude, plug his stuff.
Sun-dried.
I'm going to go yell at my producer here because clearly that was a mistake on our part over here.
But seriously, Urban Barbarian Collected Works is on Zoop for the next 23 days. Right now, it's got 15,000 out of 10,000, but I believe there's some stretch goals that are going to pop up. It's a gorgeous book. Definitely check it out. Great. And as Dan plugged, we're going to bring our second guest in here now, another one of our absolute favorite creators who has huge new projects with Flux House and Mind Management Bootleg. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Kindt, hello.
Hey. How's it going?
Hey.
All right. Great to have you back on. Great to chat. Mind Management Bootleg. This is the first title. Is this correct? Is the first title out of Flux House, which is your imprint? Is that the right way of putting it?
Yeah. It's the first title. It's not the first thing with the logo on it. I did a deck of cards, like a really strange deck of cards that is the first thing I put the logo on, but it's not going to be out till October.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Cool. Mind Management Bootleg, though, is awesome. We also talked about this on our Stack podcast. I love this book. I was so excited to see Mind Management back and existing again. The big deal, I think, beyond the fact that it's returning, is you have Farrell Dalrymple on the art, so you're not doing the art. Was it hard at all to let go of that and pass it on to somebody else?
No, that's the hardest part. Is the drawing. That's the easiest part.
Easy to pass up.
No, that's the funny answer. But the real answer was it was a little bit weird to give it up. And if I was going to do it, I wanted to make sure it was going to be artists that I was just a huge fan of, and people that I really loved and trusted with this project. Because my management's if everybody's like, oh, I like all my things equally, or like I love all my kids the same, which is totally a lie, my mom loved me better. And then I love I'm just kidding.
Shout out to your siblings. He was the podcast.
He was the favorite. I was the one they were worried about. But yeah, my management is my favorite thing, and I just wanted to make sure that we got artists that I would be excited about seeing, and I knew that they'd be better than anything I could do. And they did. They did.
Would you call Bootleg an entry point for people that haven't read it? I feel like it does such a great job of sort of a book, Mind Management, that is that goes deep, starting at least from the outside and moving in. It was that the intention?
Yeah, for sure. I think I was going to write a mind management novel. And then I actually wrote, I outlined the whole thing and plotted it, and I had half of it written. And then I realized I just want to do, I don't know, one thing, novels didn't pay very well. Comics don't pay that great either, but I was like, I'm going to do they're less work than a novel. But writing a novel was interesting because I thought, well, it needs to be a thing that for anybody that hasn't read the comic before. So I approached this the same way, where I wanted it to be, really, this is like a recruitment pamphlet, for people to sort of get sucked into the world. So if it's going to be that, then it needs to be something where you can just pick it up and read it, and you don't need to know anything else. And I know everybody says that, good jumping on point and all that, but really that is the purpose of this in a way, is to reintroduce or introduce people to mind management that have never heard of it, and sort of just get them sucked into the rest of it, into the madness.
I do want to mention, before we get too deep, for anybody who hasn't read Mind Management, it's tough for me to distill it down into a simple pitch line, but essentially it's people who can control aspects of the world through different aspects of their minds. Is that a fair way to put it, or is that too reductive?
I don't know what you're talking about. That sounds confusing.
Yeah, manage your mind, Alex.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. No, that works. I always call them spies with mind powers.
Ooh, nice.
And I always felt like one thing I liked about, I'm an old school Valiant fan, not a new school, I guess, too. I wrote a bunch of Valiant comics, but I can't be a fan of the things I wrote, so I won't say that. But what I liked about that universe was it was kind of superheroes, but I know Jim Shooter and his original mission statement for Valiant was it's our reality, but turned up 10%, and I felt like this is what that is to me. It's it's our reality, or your brain, how your brain works, but turned up 10%. So everything is grounded in some kind of science. People don't have superpowers. They don't have they kind of have mind powers, but not really. It's things your brain can do, but turned up really loud.
I love that. And I feel like comics are such an immersive art form, but there's something about mind management that sort of fucks me up when I read it. It gets inside my brain. Is that, that feels intentional, but I guess my question is, how do you do that?
Yeah, no, I think this is the book where everything I'd done beforehand, before this was traditional story, and I was playing with format and different things. But this is the first one where I felt like the content of the story and the idea of like how twisting reality and what is real and who do you trust and these ideas of paranoia. This is the first book where I felt like the book needed to embody those things, you know. So like there's tons of hidden things in there. I told my wife, I was like, this is people have probably only discovered maybe like 50% of what I put in the original series, like as far as like hidden stuff and messages and just the different references to things. And I needed to write like a annotations for it, you know, so you could go through. But whatever, it seems like a lot of work. I'd rather
well, it's interesting on that note to hear you talk about trying to write a novel for it, because I do think, like we're talking about, a lot of mind management is almost purposefully the text at odds with what the images are telling you. So not to take you back to that project, but how would you have handled that if it was just text, if it was just a novel?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was different, and I felt like the novel was great because it let me, I could explore so much more like inner monologue, inner dialogue, and then more character detail. Like there's a lot of things. Like I worked in comics for 20 years, and you really can only scratch the surface of character. You know, it really is like such a visual medium that it sacrifices some of the character and some of the deeper things. And so what I've been trying to do is sort of solve that in comics, you know, is like get that inner dialogue, get the richness of character that you can get in novels. And that was the thing missing from the novels. Like I kept wanting to do, like, I was like, how do I mess with the format in this novel, you know? And I had ways to do it. There are, you know what I mean? I had things I was embedding in the text and bolding things. And then somebody, like one of the ideas I had, somebody tweeted, they're like, there's a missing apostrophe in issue 1 of Bootleg. And I was like, oh, well, that's every typo that's going to be in this series is like part of a secret message. So all the missing parts or the missing pieces spell out a thing. So that may or may not be true. but that's the kind of thing I like playing with. And I really do. I want, like, especially this project, I want you to read it and then and kind of feel paranoid. Like, am I getting it all? You know, I want you to get the main story. You're entertained. The art looks great. You get the story, but I want you to have that nagging feeling that maybe you should read it one more time. You know?
I love that. We're such completists now, where it's like, I must consume everything. And for you to purposefully frustrate that, I love it. It's great.
Well, I mean, given what you said earlier in terms of bringing in Farrell Dalrymple to do the art, and that it was this very freeing thing of like, I can let that part of it go. How does that work with mind management in particular being so structured at the same time?
It's terrible. There's a reason why only every issue is one artist. Because I broke Farrell and I didn't want to break him. So no, he did a great job. But yeah, like my scripts for these are different than my normal scripts for other things that are more collaborative. Like this definitely it's not as collaborative as I like to be with artists, because I just, you know what I mean? It just needed to have all this stuff in it. Yeah. So I was rereading the script I'd sent Farrell, and I was like, oh boy, I felt real bad. But the issue turned out so great, and I know it took a while. You know, he worked a really long time on it, and it's like it's my favorite work of his because some of it's so funny. There's a page in there with a bunch, all the character, it's dialogue back and forth. It may be like 15 panels on that page, you know, and it's just the characters talking back and forth. And it's my favorite page just because it's so funny, and the way he did the cartooning and everything was just whatever. It was right up my alley.
That's awesome.
Matt, I love that. We have a couple of questions here actually from YouTube I wanted to throw out at you. This is from Cali Comics. I absolutely loved Fear Case. Is there any screen talk?
Yeah, there is, you know, like, I feel like that's a good one. Like I never really think about the comic book in any other format than until I'm done with the book. And then people are like, oh, who would you cast as this or that? I'm like, I don't know. I never think about that stuff. But that was one when I was done, I was like, oh, it could be a pretty creepy movie. You know, I think it would be pretty good. And so there's talk of that. There's a bunch. There was supposed to be an announcement. I thought it was happening yesterday, and then I thought we could talk about it today, but there's a bunch of things they're announcing. But I think probably later in the week. It'll probably be like right after this is over.
Yeah.
It's very funny to hear you talk about not casting anybody in the lead for your books. Did you have any idea of who might be cast in the lead of, say, like a Berserker movie or something like that?
That one, it's pretty obvious when you're co-writing it, and then the person you're co-writing with is referring to the main character as I would do this.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny.
I'm like, okay, that's great. So I started doing the same thing with, there's a Caldwell who's like the sort of like creepy science guy, and he's like the head of a cult. That might be a spoiler. I don't know what issue's out yet. Mild spoiler for
9 or 10 or something like that.
Anyway, there's like this cult around him and everything. So then I just started doing that with the Caldwell character. It was like, well, then I do this. If you do that, then I'm doing this.
Wow, way to turn the tables.
I don't want to be in the movie. I can't act. I need to be,
Well, watch your eye statements then, buddy. Yeah, you're for a casting.
No.
I mean, not to stick with the Berserker stuff, but to ask about something that happened recently. I was so pleased as a comic book fan to see you have a Berserker panel. I mean, I know it wasn't just that, but in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con. What was that experience like doing that in that massive, massive hall?
I told my wife afterwards, I was like, I'm worried I'm a sociopath, because I wasn't nervous at all. Like, it was fun. It felt great.
Wow.
I was really excited for comics, but I was like, why was I not? I don't understand why I wasn't.
Well, that many people, you sort of can't see it. It's just annoying.
It was dark too, so you can only see the front row, and then they're not yelling for me, which took all the pressure off. I was like, oh, this is great. I was an observer, an amused observer. But I will say seriously though, I know that Keanu really believed, he wanted that panel to be about the comic book, because all the other stuff, we knew that was going on for a while and everything. And he did all he could to make sure that the focus was on the comic. They showed the trailer for the comic, and we showed art for it, and talked about the process and everything. And to his credit, like, that's what he wanted that panel to be about. And it meant a lot to me. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, look, I've been doing this 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. Like, the way he sort of like re-energized comics, got new readers in, helped out comic shops, it was like, I don't think he realized the impact he had. So I made him aware of it. I was like, look at what you're doing. Like,
that's really cool. And let me ask you, like, it feels like he is such an energized part of this. Has he always been a comics person, or is it like this project has brought him into the fold in a huge way?
I think he'd always read comics, and he grew up reading. He was a little older than I was, but we grew up reading a lot of the same stuff. Watchmen, Dark Knight, Alan Moore, Swamp Thing, and then like me, he kind of drifted out of it and then came back into it. I think everybody kind of has that weird gap where, like, you're in college or out of college, or you get married, or you do, what I mean? Like, adult stuff begins happening in your life. So you're like you sort of dip away from it and then you come back to it. It was weird for me because I was always doing comics, but I still had that gap. I was like, I'm making them, but I don't have time to collect or read them or whatever. I'm too busy making them. So I think everybody, probably lifelong readers, kind of have that gap in it. But so it was fun to like reintroduce them. I'm like, hey, read this, look at David Rubin's stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, given all that, though, there was a lot of other stuff that was announced at the Hall H panel. I'm curious how involved you are and how involved Ron Garney is in, there's I think 2 seasons of a Netflix anime, as well as the live action movie down the road.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say too much because they haven't told me what to not talk about. So
okay.
But I'm assuming I've seen things like the lookbook, which was amazing for the anime stuff. And what's great about that is, like, it's a real anime studio. And so, like, it's going to have awesome. And I know we had choices too of, like, who for animation. And I was definitely, me and Keanu, we all pushed for, like, we want to do real anime, and have like a traditional studio. And I think doing that, like, the trade-off is like, well, we give up some of the control of, like, we're not going to dictate. But I think that was the beauty of it too, is it's like, take this and then make it, put it through that lens, filter it through the anime lens, and then make it something unique. And then the stuff I've seen so far looks like that. And
wow.
Yeah.
Does that let you sort of take new pleasure in it, where you're seeing it and it's like, oh, look, they did this whole other thing?
Yeah, it's cool. It really is neat. yeah, it's cool. It's neat to see like our seed of idea or whatever twisted into something new and like it's familiar, but also like very different. And yeah, I get a kick out of it.
I'm very excited to see it. I will say I'm a little bummed that we won't get to see Ron Garney's images because I love his art so much. But it'll be exciting to see something different, I think, at the same time.
No, it'll be good. But yeah. I feel like the comic book is the thing, right? Like they won't mess with the comic. It's our pure vision, and that's the base for everything else.
But speaking of amazing art and stuff, it looks like you got some great stuff behind you. And then on that spinner rack, I'm very curious if you wouldn't mind giving us a little peek here.
This is this is from Farrell. This is a cover he did for Ether. I don't know if you can. It looks like a Renaissance painting.
Yeah, that's dope.
But we put it in a Renaissance frame. It's one of my favorites. I better put it down here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm so nervous for you.
I don't like to break. Yeah, that was what else do we got? We got Tyler Cook, Blade Runner up there.
Oh wow,
dope.
This is Brian Hurt did this painting. It's the what is there are lights in the way of it. I can't remember the name of the album, but it was who's the band even? Anyway, I'll tell you later. You can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I love that. Love that Tyler Crook though. That's dope.
While we're mentioning stuff on our shelves, I just want to give a shout out apropos of Almost Nothing. I could see it, but I can't reach it, so I can't bring it over. One of my absolute favorite press things that was ever sent out, and this is like a decade back, was they sent out a cigar box full of like mind management clues stuff, and I still have that here completely full. Like it's the coolest thing because it was just all these little things in a box that you can kind of put together and like, are they clues to the comic book? I don't know.
Yeah.
I love it.
What, you can't use your knees to stand up and get it?
I can. You guys, here, ask a question. I'll go grab it and I'll bring it over. Justin, ask a question.
Yeah, do it. I want to see it.
Yeah, we want to see the cigar box. Like Alex tries to play it cool, but he's got a bunch of stuff over there. He's like always talking about it. It's about time we put the screws to him.
Right.
And
yeah. Oh my God. Did I send that to you?
Yeah. That's where Alex keeps his weed, so he's nervous about it. And that's the question that I asked.
Oh no, I was actually wrong. It was for Super Spy at Top Shelf. I mixed it up with Mind Map.
Yeah. Well, that's old. Yeah.
Yeah, cigar box. It's from May 2008. And other than like the note that we've been doing this for a while, there's this awesome like little Super Spy box, and there's these Canucks cards, and there's some sort of
talking about the Canucks.
There's cyanide capsules over here.
Yeah, don't eat those.
Don't eat those.
I don't. I'm saving them for a special occasion.
No, they get good after a while. Kids.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other things on there, but this is definitely something that like.
No, that's cool, man. Great. I handmade all that stuff. That's all like.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, awesome!
Make your own cyanide.
Yeah, they taste a lot like Tic Tacs.
Nice.
Interesting. Okay, I'll have to try them later, I guess, and I guess we'll see what happens. I'll report back or not. Let's get back to Flux House for a second. So you've got Mind Management Bootleg coming out. What else? And you've got this deck of cards you talked about as well. What else is potentially coming out from the imprint?
Yeah, I have. Dark Horse has told me not to announce anything until they roll it out officially. So what I've been doing is just talking about them really fast. So,
that'll work. They won't be mad about that.
Through them, But there's a book called Spy Superb that's coming out at the end of the year that I'm writing and drawing, and my wife is painting. She painted Department H watercolor, watercolor in this, and that's they're fat issues. I think it's like 3 or 4 issues, but they're each like 40 pages each, and I'm designing them in a way they have like a grocery bag cover on it, so they're sort of disguised because it's spy stuff. So when you see it on the stands, it'll look like somebody put a grocery bag up there, but it's really the comic inside. So there's a real cover inside when you open it. But
wow,
I'm having fun with the format on that one. And then I don't know what else I can tell you about that. But yeah, spy stuff. If you read Super Spy, an older graphic novel, there's a link to it. This is set in modern day, but there's like. The original Super Spy is like the origin of everything that happens in this book. So,
cool.
Awesome.
Again, you don't need to know that at all. It's just like it was funny to me to connect them.
We do have another question here over on YouTube. This is from Ramsey Hassan. Orson Welles is one of your key influences. What's your favorite Welles film?
Oh, my favorite Welles film? Gosh, probably. I really like Touch of Evil. Because I think the opening shot's great, and then he's real fat and sweaty and like a bad guy in it at the end, and so I kind of like that. Even though like I think Charlton Heston's character is a little problematic.
And for Mind Management Bootleg, 2 quick questions for you. One, you mentioned, so you're going to have different artists on every issue. Who's coming up? Who can you tease there?
I have Matt Lesniewski is issue 2, and I think he's been tweeting about it today, so I think it comes out tomorrow. And he did a great job. And then David Rubin is issue 3. Who I've worked with before. That was he's the only one I felt like I wasn't torturing before. He knows me well, and then Jill Thompson's doing issue 4.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that was the one I was real nervous. Like I went back and rewrote. I was like, I can't break Jill. I don't want to. I don't want to. And because I've loved her work forever. And I was reading Sandman and just a fan of comics that back then I was like, I'm not going to be the one that makes her snap. But her pages are great too. So yeah, we got that's what's lined up. I don't know what the question was, but
no, that was the question. The second question was, unless I'm mixing up Mind Management and Super Spy again, one of my favorite things in Mind Management was the little notes around the margins. And I missed that a little bit in the first issue of Mind Management Bootleg. Are we going to see that in upcoming issues?
Yeah, no, it's I'm trying to think what I did something different for these, because I didn't. First of all, those are such a hassle to write.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of words.
Yeah, it's so much, and I felt like they're mind memos, and those were unique to that original series, and that those are it's the manual to become a mind management agent. And so this is a new thing. So conceptually, I was like, I don't know if it works to repeat that. But instead, every issue is going to have sample script pages, so you can see my process and how I write the comic.
I love that.
That was.
I thought that was so good.
One of my favorite things.
Yeah, they get crazier. So that's one thing I always hate. I hate filler in the back of comics where it's and plus especially for me, I don't care about the process. I know the process. I don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care about it. It was some story pages. So I was like, and then it happened that we were going to press, and the editor was like, "Hey, we have 4 extra pages," and I was like, "Good," because this is what I need to do.
That's awesome.
I needed the pages, and so I did that different thing, and then every issue they get progressively more outlandish, and then issue 4 I literally typed on a real typewriter because I was like, and scanned it in, and it's kind of like original art, like the way they look, whatever it is, it'll be like the original art. So I don't know.
You're the Willy Wonka of comics.
What does that mean?
Just type it on a typewriter and scanning it in. It's great.
Yeah.
I remember that in Wonka.
No. It was one of the deleted scenes. You can check it out on HBO Max.
I remember
Matt, this is amazing. I'm so excited this title is back. I can't wait for you to continue to break our brains over the next couple of months.
Yeah, thank you for all the work you do. It's really amazing.
And excited for the rest of the Flux House stuff as well. Have a great night.
Thanks you too.
All right, there we go. Once again, the book is Mind Management Bootleg. The new imprint is Flux House. You can check that out, as well as Berserker. We mentioned from Boom Studios. Check that out as well. And if you are listening to the audio podcast, we're going to kick it over to our Valderrama Brothers interview right now.
Woo-hoo.
And if you're watching live,
already
we're
in
not going to do that. We're going to go right over to our next section.
And Unkindness of Raisins, where we break down all the hottest and worst raisins out there in the game.
We're going to go over to our next section, which is my favorite section, because you all make it up as your audience raisins. And for audience questions, I see a bunch of them already piling up, but drop a question and ask a question or in the comments over at YouTube. We'll keep an eye there. But first, it is time to talk about what you drinking. We haven't done that song in a while, right? Justin?
Oh, boy.
That's true. What should drink? Oh, was that my cue? Okay, well, you really are the producer.
Hey, dance for us.
Yeah,
Justin.
bring your producer back.
Yeah, exactly.
She'll have you do it.
She doesn't. She's not coming back.
No. Drink wise, though, I do want to mention we have another curated drink this week. I have to admit that I did not make it, but it's very cool.
Come on, Salbs.
I'm sorry, Matt. Did you make it, Pete?
No.
Oh, okay. But our resident chef, Stray Bullet, Brett Macris, went to go see the DC League of Super Pets in theaters and made a cocktail for the evil villain Guinea Pig out for world domination. The movie, the drink is called the Legion of Lulu, and I'll throw it out there. It is 1.5 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce of Cointreau, 1/2 ounce of Campari, 1 ounce of orange juice, a maraschino cherry, and an orange rind peel. So it sort of ends up as like a, I don't know, what would you say?
Cherry
like
and orange juice.
Like a vodka sunrise almost.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an orange whip.
But I have not seen the movie. It sounds very delicious. I made a Negroni instead, personally, but I'm going to try it at some
fancy
point.
pants.
Yeah, there you go.
Very cool. When I get home to my cocktail section, I will make that drink and enjoy another vodka sunrise, which I had many of when I was.
Yeah. Until then, though, what are you drinking tonight, Justin?
I am drinking a little bit of the Miller High Life.
It's champagne and beers. I mean, come on.
This stuff, it just comes right in a 12-pack, and you open it and twist it right off.
Pete, what about you? What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm raiding my brother's little mini fridge back here, and
wow, you're living the high life.
Yeah. They have this thing where they put the vodka in the can for you, so you don't have to buy it separately.
Oh, because you've been putting it in a can yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you've been drinking out of an old can of beans, so you just pour the vodka.
That's right. You just clean out the can of beans, so you can put your vodka in there.
Yep, the hobo special. So wait, this is a high noon?
High nooners, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. How is it?
It's all right. You know what I mean?
You're so close to discovering White Claw.
So it's like, hey, this is not bad. But
you're backing so hard into Bartles and James wine coolers from the early 90s.
Oh, dude, that was sort of the, come on.
Those were the days.
Something different, you know what I mean?
Right. All right, I'm actually going to work backwards here. This isn't going to make a lot of sense because it's a second question from Edward Doherty, but I think it's a good one to start off with. Bonus question. How bad must have the Batgirl movie been to be completely shelved and not even released to streaming by Warner Brothers? I'll give you a little update on this news if you haven't heard. But as Edward Doherty mentions, the Batgirl movie is not going to theatrical. It is not going to HBO Max. The new head of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, has shelved the movie. And as far as we know, it is going nowhere. He also shelved new Scooby-Doo animated movie, but that's less apropos of what we're talking about. I'll throw out there, there's been a lot of talk back and forth, and nobody really knows that they've done some test screenings that honestly I heard were like pretty positive. People seem to like it based on advance word. I think the thing is not about the quality of the movie. It's that David Zaslav, who is the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, as I mentioned, he is in this place where he's like, no, we just want blockbuster movies that are going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's it. And we don't want to put anything on streaming directly, like how Jason Kilar, the guy who did Day and Date with HBO Max and Warner Brothers movies did. So he is going in the exact opposite direction there. He has some big ideas about it. And my guess is that, like, Batgirl initially caught, I think, $70 or $80 million. It ballooned up to $90 million with COVID shooting, which is happening with everything right now. And I don't think they were going to make all of their money back once you went through marketing.
And
that's
I was going to say, my take is they were going to end up having to spend another $50 million on marketing. They did not want to do that. So they killed this movie. The craziest thing to me about this whole thing is they were like, HBO Max through Day and Date, I think it's largely taking the credit for HBO Max becoming like the winner of the streaming wars. Right now, HBO Max is crushing it primarily because of their COVID releases, Day and Date, and some of the shows they were launching at the same time. And the fact that they're running in the opposite direction, I don't understand the strategy. I feel like there's a lot of perhaps inexperience coming in from running Discovery and being like taking over these. I have a very much a hand in this pocket, by the way. So
in the race here.
Pardon my take.
Did you want to just plug True TV right now? And
yeah, please check out 101 Place to Party Before You Die on True TV Thursday night. Or please watch it.
I think you're absolutely right, though. I mean, I think what this guy is coming from Discovery, and it's been this wild thing of Discovery taking over Warner Brothers rather than, from our perspective, we would think Warner Brothers would take over Discovery, but Discovery is actually the bigger company. So it went in that direction. And I do think this guy is, to a fault, putting Discovery first, which is really like, it's looking more and more like it's gutting a classic company with Warner Brothers, just absolutely, completely. And to your point, you're absolutely right. Like, I think from our outside perspective, it's pretty clear that HBO Max stumbled as it launched in a lot of different ways. And it was a very controversial move for the entertainment industry, but Jason Kilar righted the ship by doing these day-and-date theatrical movies. Now they have enough content. HBO has definitely been on a roll with all of their shows that they've been providing to HBO Max as well. And not that it's just Batgirl, but it is a huge mistake just for the future of the world in terms of how entertainment works, to be like, theatrical movies are number one. Streaming is the bottom row of the Blockbuster shelf. Let's just dump our stuff there if we want to. It's not what it is.
That dollar shelf, bro, that's where all the magic was. You know what I mean?
Well, sure. There's that part of it as well. But I think like people still look at streaming and even broadcast TV is like, yeah, that's secondary to theatrical. And that's not true at all for most viewers at this point.
Well, but I think Discovery's model is built on making like less expensive unscripted shows and just having them be wildly successful, which they are good at doing. And, you know, that model doesn't work with scripted. It doesn't work with any of that side of the business. So it may be that they're just going to gut, because they have been systematically killing any scripted development at the Turner Networks. They killed Sam B's show this week. They're anything scripted that is more expensive, they are just cutting off at the knees immediately, stopping production no matter what's going on. So it's a scary time, I think, for that part of the business, which is where I think a lot of the content we specifically like lives, where it's like creating worlds as opposed to just filming the world, which is what so much of what Discovery does is.
I mean, the main thing is, like, we know how this works. It's gonna come out somehow at some point, even if it's a fan screening at San Diego Comic-Con in 5 years or something like that. Like, people will see it somehow because the movie finished shooting in March. They had cuts that they were showing off to test screenings, even if the effects weren't finished or something like that. You'll see it in some fashion, but man, what a bummer for everybody who worked on that movie. Everybody, like, for months and months, if not an entire year, if not years. It really sucks. So even if it's a terrible movie, I feel like it would be nice to see it at some point, just because, you know, that might be part of it as well, but it would be nice to see it out there. Why don't we move to another question? This one is from YouTube. This is from Nelson Martinez. Are you guys fans of the Harley Quinn animated series? I'm rewatching before starting new eps. Have you guys started the new season?
Hell yeah, I started the new season. Harley Quinn, the animated series, one of my favorite things right now. And our old buddy Moberg, Matt Oberg, does a lot of the voices. And he's killing it. I mean,
he does a lot of the voices.
He does a bunch of the voices. Yeah, like he does side characters, just one lines every once in a while, you know. So it's like he's killing it.
He does one of the voices, and no spoilers, but I think he's in one episode this season. Dude, but I will say, I love Matt Oberg. I love Matt Oberg. Hold on, what you could be talking about is like Matt Oberg is getting his own spinoff, unless they cut it because based on what we were talking about before.
And be wrong. You can do one or the other, but you can't be wrong and interrupt me. I've seen numerous episodes of the show. I could pick his voice out in a fucking crowd. All right, there's no. I know for
Alex
a fact.
is doing some intense Googling
go ahead,
right now.
Look it up, dickwad, but it's not going to help you.
Those were the days.
There was like bar back, like there was just like some one line, like no name.
All right, I'll say this. According to IMDb, not only does Matt Oberg do Kite Man, but he also does Killer Croc, Bane Goon, Banker, KG Beast, spelled differently, and Uncool Guard.
So go fuck yourself.
I remember his Uncool Guard character he used to do back at the pit.
Yeah. So
he's getting his own spin-off. We love Matt Oberg. He's a great guy. So that's very cool. So, Justin, have you watched any of it yet? And this is to put you on the spot. I'm just curious.
I have. I haven't started the new season yet, but I think it's great. And like, it's the kind of things that Warner Brothers does that I'm like, this is what this is a lane for them, because Disney Marvel is never going to do a show like this. So,
but
like,
also,
do it.
It's such a great idea to take these characters we've seen a ton and put them in different comedic things. Like, this is my favorite Bane. I love Bane in this. King Shark is hilarious. Like, giving JB Smooth the plant. I mean, it's just, there's some really funny comedic choices that they're doing, and they're leading into the comedy. And like, some of the, like in the first season, the Batman Joker kind of relationship stuff was so great and so fun. Oh my God.
I mean, I'll throw something out to you, and maybe this is like too hot a take, but I think this is one of the best Batmans of all time on the Harley Quinn show.
The new season specifically, right?
Yeah. Like, it gets so emotionally to the core of Bruce Wayne and what he's about, and pushes him to this really interesting places.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Particularly for like a comedy show.
Yeah.
The thing that is so surprising to me about the way that they portray Batman here is like, you get the growly voice Batman. I think it's Diedrich Bader does the voice, and you get all like the Batman jokes that you'd expect, but it's not making fun of Batman. Like, he's still Batman, and he's doing Batman stuff, and he's still good at his job. And that's to me, that like points to what is so good about Harley Quinn is it's an easy joke to be like, I'm dumb Batman, or I'm doing dumb stuff.
Yeah, Lego Batman.
Yes, Lego Batman also good in its own way, but like that they really dive into what makes Batman work and what makes Batman important as a character at the same time as they're still doing jokes is pretty incredible.
I'm looking forward to seeing Keanu Reeves as Batman, though, in DC Superbad's supposed to be good.
Yeah, you should make the drink as well to go with it. I want to not to stick with YouTube here, but there's a pretty heated discussion. Oh my God, YouTube is gone, you guys. It just blew up.
Oh no, not the tube!
Oh my God. Pretty heated discussion going on. This is from Cali Comics. Do you think Sam Elliott gets recast as General Ross and will also don the Red Hulk character, or an all-new actor? And there's a lot of discussion about what that means for Thunderbolts, which was just announced, among other things. So what's your take?
Sam Elliott, how old is that dude? He's got to be older than old. Because eventually, when you're old, Sam Elliott's not... He's doing so much anyway. Like,
you can do it CGI and have Sam just come in and read some stuff, and we'll take it from here. Because, like,
I mean,
it's
you're
worth
right.
It to get Sam.
I love Sam Elliott. Beef. It's what's.
By the way, I think what's going on here is they're talking about specifically William Hurt passed away, who played Thunderbolt Ross in the MCU. Yeah. Sam Elliott was, of course, in the classic Ang Lee Hulk, so they could just bring him in, sub him in, I guess. As
I would think they don't. Sam Elliott, if Sam Elliott still has workable
bones, hating on Sam Elliott.
I love Sam Elliott, but he was born old and he's still getting old, and so I'm just
who cares? That's what you get when you cast Sam Elliott. You get an old guy; he's going to kill it no matter what, because the mustache does most of the acting anyway.
Listen, that's insulting to Sam Elliott, Pete, and also I feel like we're getting some Oberg runoff emotion happening here, and I wish they put a lid on it.
All right. We got one over here from Stray Bullet. We had a lengthy discussion this week in the Slack about what to do when you want to sell your massive comic collection. Have you guys ever tried to sell off a massive books? And what was your experience? How big are your collections now? Also, I want to finish the Punisher quiz.
Oh no.
Well, I'll bring Stray Bullet in a second. Why don't we... Well, I'll bring him in now, but why don't we talk about if you ever tried to sell a part of your
Well, that's the thing. Like, my parents every couple of years will kind of bring up the fact of like, you could sell your comic book collection, because right now, unfortunately, all my comics are in storage, and it's costing me monthly, but it is
Hey, Brett, how are you?
Up. But as far
I get to it.
but I don't know how many I have over.
Wait, he has our "What Would Cliff Do" shirt. There's a picture of Cliff from Doom Patrol with a WWCD bracelet on. Dude, check that out at comicbookclub.threadless.com. You got your Pip Don't Slip shirt. I'm not wearing any swag from our show right now.
And I'm completely nude, as always.
You're Daffy Duck in it seems like. But I got 22 short boxes. So, the problem is they're anywhere from 300 to 500 in there, depending on how you squeeze it in. I don't like to pack it too tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got those bags in there, those boards.
That's right. You got to have that. And, some of them I got, graded too. So there's there's a whole other thing. But there's a couple different ways you want to try to, when you're trying to sell your comics to go, like for that I feel. If you find a legit comic book shop, they legally have to give you, like, they can't undercut the value of the comics. The problem
I don't think that's true.
What are you basing that? No. I've talked to
legally.
Yeah, there's certain comic book shops that are.
You calling the cops on a comic book shop for not giving you the price?
I'm just saying that, like,
special comic book shops, the magical ones.
But the hard thing is when you have a big collection is it takes time to go through everything, to see everything that you got and see the condition that it's in to give you the proper value. And that's where the problem comes in. A lot of time people will just give you a ballpark. All right, I'll just give you, a couple grand for all of it or whatever and take it off your hands.
Couple grand. Wow.
Let me show. I want to meet this Mr. Pennybags you're talking to.
I'll tell you, that's basically what it took. I had, like, how many long boxes? My wife is over here. How many long boxes of comics
She's
do
like,
you have?
50, you psychopath.
Oh, listen.
Yes.
She just looked at me and said 37.
I love that she knows the number.
You can hear the tone. Yeah.
I had 37 long boxes of comics, and we went through before we were living in LA at the time, and we were on our way to Minnesota, and then eventually on our way to Brooklyn.
Wow.
So we were organizing my comic book collection. Collection.
Yeah, exactly.
And we alphabetized everything, put everything in numerical, everything. Like, this is, I would just get a new collection every week and drop them in a box and not do anything with them. So this is like 20 years of books that we organized. And
how long did it take?
So that was 2006. And
you finished in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Well, it took about a month to, it took like 2 weeks to organize all of them, and then we put them in an Excel sheet, and then
oh my god,
I gave them to a friend of mine's son who wanted to sell them as like a side project, as a summer project, and he was like 13 at the time.
Wow.
He called me last year is when he sold them.
Wow.
Wow.
Dude, that guy's been working for you for years.
Oh, yeah. And he was like, because just like we would have private buyers be like, hey, we'll give you like $3,000 for it. The cover price of everything. And he went through and he priced everything. And it ended up being like $38,000 worth of comics. Just at cover price. Without value, just at cover price.
Well,
like 38.
It's like buying a car. The cover price goes out the window after you.
Yeah,
exactly. And so, and I was at some point, I was one of these idiots who was like, I'm going to buy 3 copies of everything. I'm going to buy one to sell and one to read and one to just throw in my closet.
You got to do it.
What?
Do it.
Yeah. So, I had stopped that. That ended pretty quickly when I was like, I have no money for any food. So at some point, for years, and like this kid is an adult with children now. He's like in his mid-20s, and he texts me and he's like, "Yeah, I finally got a good offer," and it was like $4,500. That's
well,
that's great.
Hey, it's something though. I'll throw out there.
You go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say this is not a good selling story, but I just want to throw out as an option for folks because this is one of the best experiences, honestly, I've had with comics is I needed to get rid of stuff because we were having kids and I was really worried about legitimately like the comics falling on the kids because they were just stacked everywhere. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but like there were crazy stacks all over our apartment that were ready to fall at a moment's notice. So I went through everything, whittled it down to what I actually wanted. And then from there, I took out any comics that were like offensive, like crossed or anything like that, and left it to like all ages comics. And I still had a couple of hundred comics. So on to Halloween, I went outside with stacks, just like boxes of comics, and I had more waiting in the wings. And I told kids as they came up to the step, like, hey, you can have some candy or you can have a comic book. And the comic books were gone in like half an hour.
Wow.
And it was great. Like, it was such an awesome experience because these kids were so excited and they were just rifling through them and choosing the ones that they wanted. It was so much fun. So highly recommend. Obviously not like a good money making scheme, but if you want to do something that like makes you feel good about kids and stuff, good fun thing to do.
When I was moving, I got rid of 8,000 comics. It was $5, all you can carry. People ad on Craigslist. People showed up and walked out of there like they were in a.
That's heartbreaking. That's fucking upsetting. I don't know.
That was great. And then eventually someone came, dude from Long Island, was like, "Hey, could I just take all the rest? I'll give you like $500." I was like, "Hell yeah, dude!" Just filled up his trunk and they were gone. It was perfect.
I still do have I have a short box of like my favorites. Like I still
have like 25 short boxes.
Wow.
Yeah, like I have like my first like detective comics that I bought in Los Angeles, in Burbank, at this place called The Secret Shop or something. Like,
yeah.
It was like the shadiest. This was before like comic book shops were like decent. It was dark. There were just shit piled everywhere when you walked in, and it was like this dude who was like super pretentious. And I didn't know anything. I was like 12, and he was like, I was like, do you have a detective Batman comics? And he was so fucking annoyed. He looked over his pile of stacks and was like, they're over there.
Anyway, you just won the Secret Punisher quiz. Congratulations.
Well, I think we're up to the physical challenge.
We're up to that, physical challenge. You and I'm sure you can do this, but you have 1 minute's time to produce something with the Punisher logo on it.
Okay, cool. So check this out. So, okay, I was going to do like the default.
It's not going anywhere. Yes, there it is.
The default. But then I was like, I can do.
For those listening, that's Brett just held up his apron that he
my Punisher
made
apron.
himself.
Yes.
With the Punisher.
And I made one for Pete too. I was also gonna hold up the photo of me and Pete when I gave him his Punisher photo.
Oh, that's good.
19 or whatever that was. But I have something better. So I have this Marvel Eats the Universe cookbook. And check this out. This is probably like, it's kind of super fucked up, but the only thing in this cookbook for the Punisher is the Punisher's wedding soup.
Oh man.
And there's your Punisher logo with his knife. It's not his hunting knife, that's his chef knife.
Right. That's his knife to stab the little meatballs in the soup, right?
Yeah. This motherfucker is cutting jugulars.
Is it Italian wedding soup? What kind of soup is it?
So it is the Punisher's Italian wedding soup. It has he makes it with, this is weird. So I'm a chef and I'm reading this. He uses bone marrow bones for this, which you don't have to do, and he uses a pressure cooker to make the broth, which, I mean, that's awesome, but you can all just throw this shit in a pot. And then it's got meatballs and stuff like this. It's pretty good. It has the stracciatella, which is basically just eggs and Parmesan whipped together, and then you sort of cook it in the broth. My favorite part of this recipe is at the end here, where it says, once the broth again returns to a boil, punish it with more salt and pepper.
They get it. See, that's just good writing. That's just good writing.
And look, and just so you guys, look at what I made. I made this cocktail. I didn't make that fucking soup.
Right, nice, yeah.
Good man.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, Pete, what does Brett win for finishing the Punisher quiz?
A pat on the back.
He wins a lifetime friendship with me, and
talk about a punishment.
And a Punisher gift.
A
Punisher gift that I will present to him when I go to his restaurant on a road trip to New Orleans.
Fuck yeah. Oh, and also to make you feel good about your drink of choice tonight, I also have.
Hey!
Also, hi, dude. Wow, buddies.
I'm not drinking it. I got it for free, and it's been sitting in this cabinet.
Amazing.
My fridge over here.
Brett, congratulations.
You
have punished this quiz.
I'm glad to bring it to a close.
Finally, until the next one starts in, I want to say 1 to 2 weeks. Brett, I'm going to be down in NOLA in like a month. I'm going to look you up. Let's hang.
Oh, man.
Wait, is it for the show? Is it for your show?
No, not doing that. I'll definitely keep you posted. I'll be shooting in your restaurant for that show someday.
You got to look me up. Please come down. All of you have to come down.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All of you have to come down.
Brett, always great chatting. Congratulations on finishing the quiz. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Later.
All right. There we go. We got a couple of other questions here, so why don't we jam through them? This is from Josh H. With Ant-Man #1 coming out recently, I got thinking about the domestic violence storyline between Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Are there any other deplorable actions that comic characters have taken that have tainted the character for you?
Well, there was that, there's been a lot of stuff, actually. But I think the one that comes to mind is that Spawn move where they did the horrible things to Wanda to get to Al, and I lost my shit in the middle of a Comic-Con floor at that poor person who worked at Image, who had nothing to do with it, but was the only person at the Image booth, and I was really upset. So there was that. It's also Spider-Man and MJ just making a deal with the fucking devil for no fucking.
When did that happen?
I've never heard that. Is that an issue?
Yeah.
Has it come out?
It has. Yep.
Oh, okay. Not familiar. Justin, you got one? Anything that's made you hate a comic book character?
Tough. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens in comics. That is the fridging thing, all of that. There's most of it is violence against female characters. I'm trying to think of an example where a hero did something that I was like, well, I'm not happy with them now. But I don't have one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I feel like every once in a while they try to take a character and just break them down to their bare essentials. And I don't know, the Hank Pym thing, obviously, that is crossing a line 100%, like you're saying. Violence against women, no thanks. Absolutely, absolutely never. But I think, like, the two that I'm thinking of offhand that they tried really hard, there was a period of a couple of years where they really tried to break down Colossus, and it's always, like, the nicest character where they're like, we're going to put you through the worst shit possible, take everybody out of your life and really test the character and see if you really break bad. And Colossus got to this very dark place and then turned around, though I guess maybe he's evil now. I'm not 100% sure.
There was that Flash one that you hated too, where it was like they made one of your favorite Flash.
Oh, Wally West. Yeah, it was the same thing, which I feel like they're just ignoring now and not worrying about because they're like, you're the new Flash. Well, that never happened. Or Penance with Speedball was the same thing. So it's always this temptation.
I love that.
You love Penance?
I thought it was fun that they took this shitty character and then had him punish himself.
I love Speedball. But the thing is, like, that the Penance thing, for example, that didn't make me hate the character. I was just like, this is a bad writing choice.
That's exactly what it is. I think, like, Kevin actually pointed out one that I think is good. Justice League, what Identity Crisis did to Dr. Light, that definitely tainted the character forever because, again, it was a sexual assault. And that is a line you should not and never should cross.
Don't do it.
So yeah, I don't know. There you go. Good question though. All right, let's move on to another one. This is from Kevin. What are the unreleased, never made comic book adaptations you have wanted to see? Oh, great question. I was obsessed with the Little Monsters novelization. I wanted to say Kevin McAllister, Fred Savage movie.
Oh, yeah.
Friends with the monster under his bed. So
Yeah.
would have loved
Howie
to see
Mandel,
a comic book
right?
adaptation. Yeah, Howie Mandel, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Bobby's
Love
World.
to see a comic book adaptation of that. I remember all the plot points very viscerally.
Oh man.
Wow, interesting answer. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know why, but like they've never really done a good Ghostbusters comic. This is sort of stealing a Pete answer, really.
Huh.
They've definitely done a lot of them. My issue with Ghostbusters in general is I just don't get what they keep pushing as the mythology for Ghostbusters, because I feel like one of the features of Ghostbusters is it's nonsense. Like the ghosts are nonsense. Yeah. There's no connection between them whatsoever. So whenever they try to push like, oh, there's
what about
a
the
connection
Scolari brothers? Come on, I mean, what are you talking about?
I don't know.
Update from Kevin. He was thinking of more adaptations of comics into other media, like say Batgirl or Nick Cage's Superman kind of.
Well,
when they did the Killing Joke as an animated movie, that was awful. That kind of really ruined it.
He's saying stuff that hasn't happened that you want, not complaints about stuff that bother.
All right.
I mean, this is something that pops up.
I want them to bring back Mask, the cartoon, because it was one of the greatest intros of all time, and I feel like we can redo it and do it better because it was fun times.
So there was a tweet from 2019 that was getting passed around a lot this week as if it was a new tweet of Warner Brothers being like, we don't know what to do with Superman. And again, this was an interview from 2019, but people were discussing a lot. And I think it's still valid because they still don't know what to do with Superman. Like, there are decades of comics with Superman, but look at Superman for All Seasons, for example, is something where... Or, Man of Steel is a pretty controversial movie for a lot of reasons, but the stuff that works in there is where they actually dived into Mark Waid's Superman Birthright. I would love to see something that is Superman Birthright, but that isn't like, and also we're going to do a little neck snapping at the end there. Like, he's dark. There's enough comics about why Superman works and how he works that I think you can make a really successful adaptation of the character.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess just Joker as a musical is my answer, as always.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to see that. Last one, this from Edward Doherty. What ideological issue in comic books would cause a Civil War-style schism among the comic book club hosts? Ooh.
Whoa.
Wow.
You're just picking a fight? You want us to fight each other? Is that what's going on?
What ideological split, like in our lives, in the real world?
Wait, what is the question?
Is that what the question is?
The question is like what
comic?
Well, like, Pete, you're anti-abortion, right?
Oh my God, what is happening? Do not make this kind of joke.
I've had a couple too many Negronis. So.
Exactly.
What is happening?
I love it. Alex makes a you little stinker face when he's got a real banger coming, and I love it. I love it. I love seeing the face and being like, oh, he's gonna say something fucked up.
I definitely think like we definitely hit a point with X-Men comic books where, to be honest, I can't discuss them anymore. Like, I don't even put them in the stack because I don't want to get into.
You don't want to hear it from me. You just don't want to hear.
I don't. It's the same discussion every time. So like, I don't know if that's a schism so much as avoiding a schism, but it's definitely not something that I can talk about anymore.
I mean, I think that covers a lot of. Just to sort of name it, I think Pete is the most passionate fan here of his sort of takes on the character. So I feel like it's often one or both of Alex and I in conflict with Pete. So I think any of those hot button Pete issues, Spider-Man being married, the Punisher in general, even things like the Fantastic Four, obviously loves Penance, which is a weird take because no one loves Penance. like anything. Those are where the real, the Fuck Island schism is what Stray Bullet says in the comments. So those are the things that I think split us up. The only times, Alex pops off, those are the ones that I take note of. Like that Secret Wars. Is it Secret Wars first?
Yeah, that came up in our Slack. By the way, for anybody who's listening, patreon.com/comicbookclub, you can participate in our Slack. I mentioned this sort of jokingly. Definitely, I don't know if I'm embarrassed about it, but I definitely viscerally remember it. It was Secret
like,
Wars. Secret Wars number 0, right? Yeah. Not even number 1. Yeah. Where I was up like furious about
your lid was flipped. I was like, how are we
about the fact that like they had built up so much to this event and it was incomprehensible to anybody who had never read comics before. Like you had to have read all of Jonathan Hickman's various runs on Avengers and Fantastic Four to understand what was going on in Secret Wars 0. And I was furious about it. And we had Fred Van Lente on our show, one of our favorite guests. And I remember looking back at him and seeing him be like, ugh, just his recoil reaction at me screaming about Secret Wars 0. I still haven't gone back and read it, but every once in a while I'm like, I see people talking about how good the Secret Wars run was, and particularly with this movie coming up, I'm probably going to relent and read it, but it was definitely at the time I was like, I'm never reading this.
You refused to read it. You
said I refused to read it.
Yeah, for the whole run of that.
Nice to see you get fired up about stuff.
Yep. But I'll probably read it now just because I want to know what's going on in the movie.
Alex, you made a promise. You made that promise.
All right. Apologies.
You don't know with the movie.
We do have a couple of other questions on YouTube, but I'm sorry, we are running low on time. So I do want to move on to our next section, which is trivia. No. And for that, we're going to kick it over to Peter Page.
All right. And do we have somebody for this? Or are we looking for a first stand-up?
No, we don't have anybody.
Okay, so we need a volunteer.
Alex is out of gas.
YouTube or somebody in Crowdcast can put a hand up there, and you will win $25 free to Midtown Comics.
That's all right. We only have another hour and a half to 2 hours podcast tonight.
I think that Raisins comment really popped the Alex balloon, and he's been slowly running out of helium. Hurry, we gotta hurry up.
We just need a brave volunteer to raise their hand, put their hand up to win $25 free to Midtown Comics Online. $25 free can be yours.
Oh, we have an I'll do it. David Quinley says on YouTube.
David.
So, David, this is going to be a little bit of a delay, but I'll try to type the stuff in the comments for you, specifically the answers. So, Pete, take it away with a little bit of trivia.
All right. Today's trivia is on topical comic news and a small nod to the legend Nichelle Nichols. R.I.P. Lieutenant O'Hara.
Yeah.
Please listen to all 3 options before making your selection. Question number 1. Here we go. Jim Zubhub is writing what comic book ahead of the movie? Is it A, Thunderbolts, B, Hawkman, or C, Tony Hawk? So it's either A, Thunderbolts, which is the correct answer, or it's B, Hawkman, which is just there to rhyme, later lead into the Tony Hawk C option. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, let's see. David Quinley hasn't given an answer here. I'm personally going to probably guess it's Thunderbolts, since that's the only one coming out as a movie. Oh, he says A. Is it A?
Yes, that is correct. Here we go. Question number 2. In Flashpoint Beyond number 4, which we will talk about in the Stag podcast coming up later.
Maybe.
What is the name of the Robin in this issue? Is it A, Dexter, B, Crispy Bacon, or C, Clay Aiken? So it's either A, Dexter, which is what you should select, or it's B, Crispy Bacon. As we all know in the Slack discussion, Crispy Bacon is the best bacon, and not the soggy.
Get out of here! That's soggy. Yeah, get Crispy Bacon. Go eat a shards of glass with salt on them.
Oh, wow.
Wait, do you like soft bacon? Soft bacon instead of...
Justin loves the soft bacon. He likes it just limp bacon, just kind of just
nice
barely,
and raw.
Yeah.
It's not raw. It's cooked to
just eat it out of the package, man.
Yeah, I do.
Do not do that.
I've never cooked bacon. Well, you just take the plastic open. It's like a hot dog.
David Quinley says the answer is always Dexter.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but that is correct in this case. Here we go. Last one. In 2023, what is the crossover event with Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers? It's called Captain America blank. Is it A, Two Sides of the Same Shield, B, Cold War, or C, Downtown Julie Brown? So it's either A, which you shouldn't pick, or it's B, Captain America Cold War.
Whew. Great question. I do love Cold Wars because they're cold.
You do?
Yeah.
Like, on a BLT, you really want to eat like a sharpened
Not sharpened, just crispy, bro.
Yeah,
I
crunch.
Like
you want some crunch in there, particularly with the BLT.
Oh, yeah, come on, man.
You want
David says to be or not to be.
That is the correct answer.
All right, there we go. David, you are getting a $25 gift card to Midtown Comics. Pete, what is your secret answer?
The secret answer is the 2017 hit TV movie Sharknado 5 Global Swarming.
All right.
Right on the
David,
heels of Shark Week.
Great. I can't think of anything better to commemorate Nichelle Nichols than with that movie.
Well, first off, go fuck yourself, because she is many things, was many things, but also had a good sense of humor. And the fact that she was in this movie shows that, and was like, oh, this is crazy, but it's a thing right now, so I'm going to get involved. And a tip of the hat to that.
Yeah, but not like Star Trek 4 or something?
Wait,
that's too obvious.
That's the eulogy you're doing at her funeral?
Yeah.
Who you just said, Pete?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I'll change it a little bit for the crowd, but you
know. All right, David, shoot us an email at comicbookclublive.com. No, that's not right. comicbookclublive@gmail.com, and we'll get a gift card off at you. And
we'll get a gift card to you, not what Alex said.
You guys finish off the show. Thanks, guys.
He's out of gas. I love it. Tomorrow's new
Three more shows.
Tomorrow's new comic book day. Let's see. What are you picking up, Alex?
Oh, wow.
I'm looking forward to the Dead Lucky #1 from Image Comics. This is another spin-off of Radiant Black. I've been loving this universe, so it is always exciting to me when a new title comes out from it. What about you, Justin?
Expanding quickly, that universe, by the way. I love how fast they're working. I had a lot of good stuff. We read a lot of specifically DC comics for this week coming out. Let me throw it out to Batman Killing Time #6. Tom King book that I feel like was overshadowed by his Batcat stuff. But this book is fantastic. This is some of the best Tom King stuff I've read in quite some time.
I'm looking forward to getting into that with you. I'm going to go ahead and say Little Monsters #6 and Twig #4, both banana issues, just unbelievable art.
Banana issues, meaning you could slip on them and fall to comedic effect as banana issues. You're saying
nope.
Oh, okay. Just trying to read the Pete Leaves. Yeah. Shout out to Batman 126. Also, Chip Zdarsky taking it to new places.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of those are going to be in our Stack podcast that comes 9 a.m. Wednesday in the Comic Book Club feed and also its dedicated Stack feed. And folks, that is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Matt Kindt. Check out all the Flux House stuff, including Mind Management Bootleg from Dark Horse Comics, as well as Berserker, as we mentioned. Dan Panosian, Urban Barbarian, is on Zoop right now. Also Canary from Comixology. Dallas Ever After from Boom. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, The Valderrama Brothers, you can check out Giants Volume 2, Ghosts of Winter, coming very, very soon from Dark Horse Comics. Next week on the show, Scott, Brian Wilson, and Liana Kangas are going to be here to talk about IDW's True Cult, which should be very cool. A couple of other podcasts you can check out. Riverdale After Dark, our Riverdale podcast, just finished up Season 6. Woo! That season was wild, so definitely check that out. Also, The Doom Room, our Doom Patrol podcast, dropping every Thursday. And coming up very soon next week, Lock and Key Unlocked, our Lock and Key podcast is coming back. We got a new episode for you, breaking down very quickly the Season 3 trailer. But
we talk about the trailer a lot.
We talk about the trailer.
Yes, we do. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support the show and all the shows we do. Subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice, at Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, good night.
Get that Punisher's recipe for soup.
Keep your pip to walk.
2 scoops of raisins.
Yep, come on.
It's great. We all got a joke in.